NBCOT.
Right.
All right, we are live streamed.
Give us 1 second to get it put on the website.
Okay.
Once I get the link, it'll take about another 15 seconds.
No problem.
All right, Alan. Been sent.
And there it is. All right. It should be active on the website now.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everyone. A meeting of the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners Occupational Therapy Advisory Committee pursuant to lawful notice is duly convened and called to order at 10:32 a.m. Friday, November 18th, 2022 via Zoom virtual video. Please note any comments by the public are welcome and can be emailed to publiccomment@lscme.la.gov. Dr. Van, please confirm that you have verified the identity of all tele and video conference participants.
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Thank you. Is the sound clear and audible to the public and those on tele and video conference?
It is.
Thank you. All additions to the executive or public agenda must be made presently, as we will no longer make additions to the agenda after the close of the public session. The advisory committee members present are as follows: Darby Philibert, Chair; Ingrid Frank, Vice Chair; Brenda Martin, Kelly Brandon, Caroline Murphy, Waylena Crooks, Kimberly Solari, Amy Laravere, and Glenn Wallace. We also have a guest with us today, Barbara Williams, who's the Associate Director of External and Regulatory Affairs of NBCOT. We also have Vincent Collada, Jacinta Duth, Olivia, Olivia's here.
And Alan from IT.
And from IT. So I do not see Mary, which we'll be needing today. But
Miss Wilton is here with us today.
gotcha, I see her now, Patricia Wilton. So that we have no members that are absent today, and we have confirmed we have a quorum. So just to review, the mission of OTAC is ultimately to protect the public, that is the consumers of occupational therapy, by regulating competent practice and upholding the standards set forth by the governing rules and regulations. The old business that we will do first prior to our guest speaker would be approval of the minutes. The minutes from meeting on October 28th, 2022 respectfully submitted by Ingrid Frank. So everyone had a chance to look at them. Just for clarification, are we reviewing the minutes that Ingrid submitted or the minutes that are submitted and posted on the board website?
The ones that are submitted on the board's website, which should be the same.
They're not, Dr. Collada, because they've been edited, I guess, by Mary Payton, or I'm not sure who. I've sent a separate email to Mary Payton, actually, about the amount that they've been edited, especially in regards to us taking votes on sections of the rules and that not really being reflected in the minutes that have been posted.
All right, well, let's do this. If you don't feel you can approve the minutes that are posted on the website, why don't you make the appropriate amendments to them, vote on them, and then they will be amended? Or if you want to go by a document that you have the right to amend by substitution, a different set of minutes. Robert's Rules of Order would allow you to do either one. Patricia, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, both of those things are correct. And also, just so you'll know, Ingrid, going forward, I'm going to handle the minutes and notice responsibilities for the advisory committees. So, if I ever have any questions that I think are suggestions for how to edit something for clarity, I'll always contact you first before I would presume to do that and post it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, guys. Ingrid, I just want to make sure that on the under new business, I know that the first version had that my term expired in December, but to also add that Brenda's does as well.
You're talking about the
Original
minutes?
one, yeah.
So that's a mistake on.
It just, it has a, we discussed that we're going to put out in June for the call for nominations,
Yes.
but Brenda and I both started at the same time, and therefore our terms both end next December of 2023. And I just want to make sure it reflects that there'll be two positions that we need to do call for nominations for in June.
Okay. Maybe should you share the screen with the minutes that I submitted and we approve those?
All right, well, do we have a, let me see, Jacinta, do we have a copy of what was submitted from Ingrid?
I'm sure we do. And I just wanted to make clear that the corrections that are made to the minutes are done by Mary. So if we need to get her on the meeting, I mean, we can do that, but we don't edit any of your minutes. We actually just submit them to her, so.
Okay, which we're not going to do anymore. So that's a problem for the past. You could do one of two things, folks. You can just pass over voting on last month's minutes for the moment, and we'll come back with a clean copy of what Ingrid proposed with any kind of amendments, if any kind of revisions that I might think are appropriate. And she and I will discuss that before they're made. And then you could just vote on that at your next meeting, if that's the easiest way to do it.
I would prefer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody just move to table the minutes of the last meeting until the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll move to table the minutes of the meeting until our next meeting.
Someone second?
I'll second.
Who
Thank
was
you,
that?
Kelly. Kelly.
Kelly?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And anyone abstain? Okay, thank you. Any public comments on that, Dr. Van?
None that I can see at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Williams. I'll allow her to introduce herself, but I'll just give you a little bit of history. Barb and I have known each other for years through our work with AOTA and NBCOT. They've presented multiple times to the State Board of Medical Examiners. Always look forward to their updates for keeping us abreast of all their new programs and support that they provide to occupational therapists. So she is technically the Associate Director of the External and Regulatory Affairs with NBCOT, and we look forward to her presentation. Thank you so much, even though she thought the meeting was last week, like some of us did too, but was able to switch it to this week. So we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Darby. And yeah, it's all good. We always make it work, and it's great that we can do things virtually like this. I think some good things did come from COVID, right? We figured out ways that we could get together. So unfortunately, I'm not seeing you in person, but it's good to see your little squares on the screen. So as she said, I am the Associate Director at NBCOT in the External and Regulatory Affairs Department. My colleague Sean Conway and I do a lot of outreach efforts. We try to get out to regulatory boards to make sure that they know what's going on at NBCOT and to see if we can answer any questions for all of you. So yeah, we're back, visiting with you folks, and I just want to thank you for your time. So with that, I don't know if someone can possibly share the presentation.
I can make you a co-host if you want to do it, Barbara, unless you want Darby
I-
or something.
No,
It
I
was
can, I
also
can,
on the cloud share, guys. Did y'all get the cloud share?
yeah, I submitted one. I submitted it to Olivia yesterday, but I can share my screen as well if that would be helpful.
I have it ready to share if somebody will let me share. Jacinta, I need to be able to share. Okay, so I can pull it up right now. Jacinta gave me privileges and now I can do it.
Okay, great. All good. We'll get there.
All right, so can you all see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so NBCOT, we just want to give you an update and keep you current. We can go to the next slide. Our mission is to serve the public interest. Sounds very similar to what Darby read in the beginning. Licensure boards are about protecting the public. We strive to serve the public interest in its diversity. We do this by advancing just, equitable, and inclusive client care, as well as just, equitable, and inclusive professional practice. We use evidence-based certification practices, as well as the validation of knowledge that's essential for someone to be an effective and safe practitioner in OT. So this notion of serving the public interest underscores all that we do. Obviously guides our management team, guides our board of directors, whether it's initial certification and information about the exams or maintaining certification and those requirements. All go back to this serving the public interest. Okay. Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Just wanted to let you know we've really put an emphasis on that. It's always been part of who we are and what we do, but we've really brought it to the forefront. We've developed a reflection tool that is free to anyone even in the public, has different modules to address issues related to JEDI. But just keep in mind that, you know, as you saw that in our mission statement, it is the driving force for us. So as you may know, if not, just want to share with you, we are accredited by 2 outside organizations. We're accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, as well as the American National Standards Institute. This is very similar to OT and OTA educational programs going through ACODE accreditation, or a healthcare facility going through JCO or CARF accreditation. What this means is we're being held accountable. Each of these organizations have a number of standards that we must at minimum meet, if not exceed. So what we do in regard to the exam, what we do in regard to maintaining certification, we're answering to not just one outside entity, but to 2. We are governed by a board of directors. Obviously, they're in charge of our strategic planning, our vision, making sure that we meet those. The board is made up of OTRs, COTAs, as well as public members. These public members have backgrounds in areas like bioethics and public health. So just know we have a board that is guiding us to help us meet that mission. So just to share a bit of information about students, I wanted to start with that. So we can go to the next slide. We have the content outlines posted on our website. This gives information about what is covered on the exam. The OTR exam has 4 domains, or I describe domains as general competencies. And the COTA exam has 3 domains. This information is publicly available. It includes the percentage of the exam for each of the content outlines. This can be very helpful for students as they prepare for the exam. Also for academicians, so that they know what we're covering as well. These domains or general competencies are further broken down into tasks and knowledge statements. And all of this information is available on our website. Okay, next slide. So practice analysis studies. How do we come up with the content of the exams? Both of our accrediting bodies require us to perform what's called practice analysis studies. So every 5 years, we perform these surveys where we're surveying thousands of entry-level practitioners from across the country. So that's individuals who have passed the exam within the last 3 years. And we ask them, what knowledge do you need to have? What tasks or jobs do you need to perform? What domains or general competencies do you need to meet as an entry-level practitioner? And that's the content of the exam. I frequently share this with students because I want them to know it's not just NBCOT staff, sitting around a table deciding what we think is important. The content of the exam comes from their peers, and this provides that content validity so that the exams really do assess the knowledge for job-related activities of entry-level practitioners. Next slide. So, just so you know, this year we performed practice analysis studies. So we surveyed thousands of entry-level practitioners across the country. We did the survey this year. We have just recently been able to summarize all of the results. This information will be made publicly available next month, the beginning of next month. The updated content outlines will not affect the exams until those being administered in January of 2024. Now, you may think, well, you did the study in 2022. Why is it not till 2024? That's because we need to update the exam. We may need to write new items to address the content. We need to revalidate the questions. So it takes a fair amount of work. We will use subject matter experts from across the country. So OTRs and COTAs will help us in this process. So again, just know that the information will be made available next month, and this will it will start affecting the exam in January of 2024. We do have posted on our website the exam scoring calendar. This gives students, gives faculty, gives reg boards the information of when scores are coming out. What's important to note is that students need to take the exam 3 days prior to a scoring date in order to get their score on that date. It's usually 2 to 3 times a month. We do have a blackout period in December that we always post well in advance. And this is just for us to do maintenance of the system. But the scoring calendar is out there. So those of you on licensure boards, regulatory committees can see the date that scores are actually coming out. Just to let you know, score transfers notifying licensure boards, regulatory boards of students passing the exams. Last year, we sent over 22,000 of those. And then eligibility confirmation notices. This is in instances where individuals may want to start working on a temporary permit or a limited license. And that jurisdiction requires information that the individual has been deemed eligible to take the exam. In 2021, we sent over 10,000 of those. Okay, from student to practitioner, we do offer various presentations to students. Just wanted to let you know that we heard from academicians, we heard from students about having difficulty making a transition from being a student to a professional. We do offer a virtual presentation on that, and that was just from the students requesting that. So just to let you know, we don't just see them as a student, prepare them for the exam, and let them go. We do try to make concessions for them to make that transition. Okay, next slide. Okay, now let's talk about OTRs and COTAs. Next slide. So the code of conduct is very important, obviously. The same code of conduct that students agree to abide by when they apply for the exam is the same code of conduct that we hold OTRs and COTAs to. As we tell individuals, this adds value to your certification, as others know that you're being held to expectations in regard to practicing with fairness and honesty, professional responsibility, acting with integrity, abiding by laws, and accurately representing themselves. Next slide. Kind of shifting gears here, the OT Licensure Compact, just wanted to let you know we are making progress with that. It's been a great joint initiative with AOTA. I think last count we had 24 states that had signed on. The Compact Commission did meet for the first time in August. An executive board was elected. They are working on RFPs for the administrator position, and I think maybe even another position, but just know that it is moving forward. We're getting a lot of interest in regard to the states that haven't passed yet, and doing a lot of outreach efforts to educate folks on these licensure boards. Okay, next slide. So here's a map. I forgot that was in here. This is of the states that have enacted legislation, those where it's pending, and there are some states where it was not enacted, that it was presented, but at this point it was not enacted. So you can see a lot of work. We said we needed 11 states to stand the compact up, and we had well over 11 when the time came. So very pleased with the progress, and just know we will be continuing our work on that. Just so you know, we do have self-assessments available for OTRs and COTAs in various areas. You can see some listed here: general practice, physical disabilities, pediatrics, older adult mental health, orthopedics, community mobility. These are free to OTRs and COTAs. They often use these maybe for professional development plans, or maybe they're switching areas of practice and they're not sure what they don't know. So one of the ways that we support certificates. Next slide. Practice analysis study. So we did something unique that we don't know of any other certification organization who's done this, but you heard me talk about the practice analysis studies that we do to decide on content for the exams. We decided to venture into providing more professional development opportunities for those who have been practicing for a while. But we didn't want to just create tools, resources that we thought were important. So we did a practice analysis study of individuals who have been practicing for a number of years. What we came up with from that study was 6 different domains, which you can see listed here: providing client-centered care, working in interprofessional teams, employing evidence-based practice, applying quality improvement, utilizing informatics, and professional responsibility. This guides us in regard to the resources that we develop for OTRs and COTAs. Again, we didn't want to just assume what individuals were doing in practice. We needed to hear from you folks. So these are the 6 domains that guide all of the tools that we create. Next slide. So we have the navigator tools. I think that many of you may have already heard about these. I know we've been working with your board in recognition of these for quite a while. But they are free to OTRs and COTAs. You can earn your units for your certification renewal. They all go back to that practice analysis study that I just talked about. They all must relate to at least one or more areas of one or more of those domains that I indicated. So individuals can use these for certification renewal. Next slide. We do have well over 100 tools, which can seem overwhelming. So we have a self-assessment, self-reflection that individuals can take to help them, to guide them to particular tools. All of these tools are practice relevant because they tie back to that practice analysis study, but they're also all evidence-based. A tool doesn't get developed unless we can find evidence to support it. These are engaging tools where you need to interact with the tool. The tools, you can have a number of attempts. If you attempt a tool and you're not successful, you're given a number of resources. Even if you are successful, you're given a number of resources. But if you're not successful, you can read through those resources and hopefully pass the tool on your next attempt. Various tools come in the forms of case simulations. We have specific tools for like orthotics. We have quizzes that address multiple practice areas, practice settings across the lifespan. Same in the knowledge library. We have other specific tools on things like research, physical agent modalities, management, ethics, telehealth. The list goes on and on. Next slide. We do have new case simulations out for the COTA in regard to ethics and low vision. Next slide. And then for the OTR, we also have new case simulations, public health crisis. I'm sure you can guess why that came about. Middle school autism and pediatric mental health. Again, we bring in subject matter experts to help us develop these, and they're all evidence-based. Next slide. We also started offering practice assessments as part of the Navigator. These are tests that an OTR or COTA can take that include either 50 or 75 questions. If they pass the test, it demonstrates knowledge in a particular area of practice. We just launched these this past year in January. They've been a great success. A lot of people are using these. So the plan is to develop more, but you can see the areas here for the OTR and the COTA. Next slide. We do keep track of if these are used. Or, you know, it's important to us that if we're putting in the resources and the finance to develop these, are they being used by practitioners? Are they being helpful? So I can tell you that over 207,000 competency assessment units have been earned. That's what we call them for the Navigator professional development units, but we call them competency assessment units. And over 600,000 of the tools have been played. Again, we simply track it just to see if they're being used, if they're meeting OTRs and COTA's needs. We do not track if an individual does not pass. They don't get a black mark by their name. It's not that we're concerned about individuals engaging in these tools and not being successful. And the reason I point this out is because I had someone at a state association conference come up to me and asked me about this. And it really took me aback because we've never had that type of conversation. These aren't meant to be punitive in any way. These are to support OTRs and COTAs. Next slide. So these are the states that accept the Navigator. As you can see, Louisiana is not highlighted. The states in the upper, on the East Coast, many of them, well, the ones indicated did not have continuing education or professional development requirements. Those licensure boards did not have requirements. Those things are changing now. Some of those have passed where they will be requiring professional development. So we'll be working with them. We're really close with Tennessee. We're really close right before the pandemic. And then, you know, that kind of made everything go sideways, as you well know. And then with Louisiana, I know that I was talking with you folks, I think it was last year or year before, and it was close for you as well. Please know that, you know, we would be glad to answer any questions that you might have about it. And, you know, if there's any need for clarity or, you know, any thoughts you might have, we would be glad to address that.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Are those considered, are your Navigator units considered continuing education units?
Yes. Yes, by all the states that you see highlighted there, and us as well. There is some variation in the states because some of them put special conditions around it. They might say, you know, you're only allowed to get, you know, 12 units virtually, that type of thing. But yes, they are professional development units. And in fact, our board made the decision this past year that all 36 units for certification renewal can come from these Navigator tools. And the reason the board did that is because some of the things, as you folks likely know, some of the things people do for professional development, you know, it's kind of on the periphery, and we give them some leeway, but it doesn't always necessarily contribute to their personal practice. Because they're evidence-based, because their practice relevant, our board decided to accept them all. So yes, all that to say, yes, they do count.
Dr. Van, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we are allowing NBCOT's courses on our CE broker.
has that been I mean, if that's great, I would love to highlight Louisiana.
Yes, we're utilizing people have to turn their CEUs in on a platform called CE Broker.
Yes, yes, I have a slide on that. Yeah.
And
Okay.
CE is one of our approved providers.
That is great news. Darby, I don't know if you or someone could shoot me a quick email so that
Yep.
I can share that with everyone.
No, I'm happy to send you an email.
Yeah. I knew that you all had been having discussions, but I never, we weren't for certain, and I didn't want to assume anything. So this is great news. Thank you for sharing that.
Darby, if you would send it, what you wanted to say, it really should come from the board so that
Yeah.
the NBCOT will know that we have approved any NBCOT approved CEs. So it's all a matter of you linking. We hope that you would link for our licensees to CE Broker, and it's a done deal for them.
Perfect.
So you want me to send the email to you, Dr. Van, and then you can forward it to Barbara?
Yeah, what we'll do is Pat and I'll make sure it's what it needs to say for Barbara's use,
Yes.
and we'll send it to Barbara, and I'll copy you, Darby.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, folks. You just made my day.
I'm sorry, Barbara, that you weren't aware of that, because I know we
No,
had
it's
discussed it at
fine.
AOTA, but I don't think at that time it was actually in practice, you know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We will get it updated and make it official. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, information for you folks. You can, next slide. So we do have the administrators portal, you know, where we provide information for administrators, direct login. I do want to let you know that, you know, an administrator can assign, can ask for access of other folks on the committee or board. The other thing I want to point out is that we are doing an overhaul of our website. We're hoping to have that available the end of this month. So it may look a little different. Those of you that have been accessing this, just know that that portal is available. Next slide.
If I might ask a question before you proceed to the next slide.
Absolutely.
I am an inveterate techie around here that is pushing this agency to what my goal, though probably never attainable, is 0-day licensing. Are you setting up either a certificate exchange brokerage like Parchment, or are you setting up APIs that when we have an application from somebody, we can verify it directly from you, computerized, as opposed to waiting and trying to find this and going to your website? We'd like to do this as rapidly as possible. So what are our options other than just signing into your portal?
Yeah, so we don't have, currently, we do not have, we don't have anything with Parchment in regard to verification of certification. That is done through the website. We do use Parchment for students who submit their academic transcripts. But I can certainly take that forward, you know, about that it is something that, you know, that perhaps we could consider. Yeah, you know, we did a survey a few years back on how long it takes regulatory boards, committees to process initial licensure applications, and it was anywhere from 2 days to 8 weeks. So anything we can do to expedite that, I think would be, you know, well worth our time.
We appreciate it. We're moving to Parchment at the agency here. And we're also doing things with APIs, and we'd like to look at all of our options to expedite the licensing. And of course, with CE Broker, we've now turned license renewal into an almost 20-minute event.
That's awesome. Yes, yes, great. Yes, I will most certainly, I assure you, I will take that back.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, next slide. And this is just what you're talking, the verification and certification, where you would log in to see if someone is verified with NBCOT. That can be done through the portal. It can also just be done from the website. We've we made it available to the public. And in the last several years, we've seen a great increase in this feature of our website by the public. They can put in a practitioner's name and state of practice to find out if they're certified. And, you know, I think it's just a test to how involved people are in their healthcare. Next slide. These are states that accept NBCOT certification as an option for meeting their licensure renewal requirements in regard to professional development. So the states that you see listed here, if a licensee provides the reg board in this state with evidence that they are certified with NBCOT, that state automatically acknowledges that they have met their professional development requirements.
So wait,
See,
Barb, I have a
Roper.
question.
Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question.
Yeah.
So with that last slide, those are the states, do they require it? Or
No, so
okay.
South Carolina, and I didn't point that out, I apologize. There's an asterisk there. They are the only state in the country that requires NBCOT certification. And so that's a seamless effort with them. The other states do not require it, but they have made the stance that if you have NBCOT certification, we feel confident that you have met professional development expectations for your license. They don't have to use their certification to provide evidence of meeting those requirements, but obviously many of the practitioners do.
Ms. Barb,
Yes.
is it a requirement of the NBCOT that you have to do annual maintenance of certification?
When you mean annual maintenance, do we check annually? Is that what you mean?
Do people supply documents to you
Okay.
annually to make sure that they remain certified?
No, they do not. No,
Okay.
currently they do not. They don't do it annually.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Dr. Van, Barb can correct me if I'm wrong. The certification with NBCOT is every 3 years.
It is every 3 years, but we don't check it annually. We check it the 3 years. Thank you for pointing that out. There might be some changes in that because of the next slide, which is, I think, yes, we are working with CE Broker. We have an affiliation with them. We just have started this. I know you folks are working with them, as you indicated earlier, and I knew that from previous meetings, and more states are. So we have just launched this, where we're encouraging our certificants to use CE Broker. As you know, CE Broker has a component that's free to everyone, and then the other stages that you can invest in if you would like. So because we just launched this, there may be changes in the future as we continue to work with CE Broker in regard to expectations, timing. I don't think we will change the certification renewal in regard to timing. I think it will stay every 3 years, but we may be looking at things differently in regard to what individuals submit and the timing of that. Ambassador.
I have a question real quick, Barb.
Yes, please.
So, we've had to in the past go in and upload things for NBCOT for our renewal. If we use CE Broker, do we have to do that, or is it going to just cross over?
So what we're going to do is encourage people to use CE Broker. And so, for you folks in Louisiana who are already tied with them because of licensure, it'll already be there. Yeah. So, the intent is that eventually it would all be with CE Broker. Does that make sense?
Yes. So if you're in Louisiana and you use CE Broker, then you don't have to upload all that stuff for NBCOT.
It would all be tied together.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yep. Good question. Ambassadors, we started a new program right before the pandemic, and it went sideways because of that. But we do now have ambassadors from each jurisdiction. We have one ambassador for each state, each jurisdiction. It's either an OTR or a COTA, and the purpose is really, as indicated here, to strengthen the relationship between us and our stakeholders, to increase our presence at the state level, to provide that information exchange, and then to enhance access to our information, our services. Amy Yarborough is the ambassador for Louisiana. I know that many of you know her. Sean and I, this is our job, but obviously we can't be everywhere all the time. We want to be available to folks like you. We want to be receptive, but there's only so much the two of us can do. So we hand selected one individual from each state, and this is what they're working on. They go to state association conferences on our behalf. They attend licensure board meetings, committee meetings, and help us just to communicate information back and forth. So just wanted to let you know that this is a new venture that we started as well. And we have one of your folks who's residing in Louisiana, who is involved in what's going on there, that will directly relay information back and forth for us. Disciplinary action, I can go through this somewhat quickly. We do have our process indicated on our website. It's in a flow chart. Probably looks very similar to what you folks all do. Obviously, we're held accountable to this. It's important for us to have due process to make sure that we're hearing the complainant, but also doing right by the OTRs and the COTAs. This just gives you an overview of the last several years, and I don't need to go through each one of these, but just to give you an idea of where the reports are coming from. Early determination review, exam applicant, the OT, the types of behaviors that we're seeing in each of these groups. So
do you issue reports to boards of your action, or does the board have to poll you to find out?
No, we will send information to you. If anyone from Louisiana, if we take sanctions against them, we send that information to you.
Now, somebody may be licensed in Louisiana but living somewhere else. You would know both states that they have licenses in and send them to both, correct?
Yeah, whatever information we contact whatever information. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, you're welcome. Sanctions imposed, just to give you an idea, this is for early determination review. In case you don't know, this is for when individuals, before they even apply to take the exam, if there's something in their past where they've made a poor decision and they would attest affirmatively to character review questions, they indicate that in this early determination review, and we review their eligibility before they even apply for the exam. So you can see the sanctions we've taken in the last 3 years for that. Next slide is for the exam candidates. You can see 2021, it was only 7, which, the fewer the better, obviously, but this just gives you an idea of the types of sanctions we've taken over the last several years. And this is for the OTs. You can see it jumped up quite a bit in 2021. Which I'm not sure, what to attribute that to. And this is for OTAs. It stayed pretty consistent. But these, again, are the sanctions that we have imposed on each of these groups. With that, our effort to serve the public interest is stronger because of our partnership with you, the collaboration that we have. Darby, you've been great to work with, the communication back and forth. In fact, your whole group has been great to work with, very, receptive. Please know that we want to be there to support you in any way that we can as well. So to never hesitate with questions or concerns, that's my job. So I'm glad to hear from you and assist in any way that I can. And that's it. There's our website. As in the next slide, you can see, where we are, and know that if you get on there today and then get on next month, it might look a little different. So because we are doing an update, trying to streamline things, make it more user friendly and making it accessible to everyone. So with that, I'd like to take any questions you might have.
I have a comment at first, other than thank you for sharing so much information and being such a good resource. Like, I so look forward to talking to you and Sean every year at AOPA because you learn so much just from y'all's helpfulness to the profession. But because we're not in person, I know I've kind of mentioned it, but they supply us with, and I don't know if y'all can see it or how, but anyway, this is the 2022 and I have a 2021 version of a certification data book. And because we're not in person, like, it's really hard to share this, but it gives you state by state information, all of the, the whole table of contents talks about the breakdowns of practice area, discipline action summaries, demographics. So we do have access to this like in a book. I don't know why the camera is not working really well, but anyway, they give this to us every year, and us meaning like the advisory committees for each state. So we do have that information. I'm sure it's on their website, but it's kind of nice to get that every year. I just don't know what to do with it officially since we don't have like an office or a place for it. But Dr. Van, if you're ever interested in that, please let me know, and I'm happy to drop it off to the.
And Darby, please know we have an electronic copy as well.
Oh, okay.
If you do not have access to that, let me know and I'll make sure you get that link. But it is, we do a lot of looking by state, even breaking down by county, how many certificates are in each county, that type of thing. Yeah, we've heard individuals use this for various reasons, but yeah, Darby, if you need that electronically, please let me know.
Yeah, are y'all interested in it? Do you want me to get it electronically and share it with y'all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one question about the electronic version.
Mhm.
How often is it updated? Is anytime you take a disciplinary action, is it updated?
No, we put it out yearly. Yeah, it's not, we don't have a group that's updating it with each sanction. So yeah, it just comes out once a year.
Barb, I had a quick question about the scoring days. You mentioned there's 2 to 3 per month. Is that every month, all year? It's not just at certain time of year, like June and July?
No, it's 2 to 3 times a month, all throughout the year. With the caveat that we do usually have like a 2-week blackout period in December at the end of the year. But yeah, we don't, it's 2 to 3 times a month.
Okay, so anytime a new OT takes the exam, they're gonna get the results within a week, 2 at the most.
Absolutely. Yeah, if they time it right, they can have it within a matter of days. It's not uncommon for us to get contacted by students. I had a friend who got his score in 3 days and another friend had to wait 2 weeks. Why the difference? Well, it's due to the scoring date and the proximity, and they have to remember that 3-day rule. If they take it 2 days before a scoring date, they're going to have to wait until the next scoring date. So I've personally worked very hard on getting that message out to students, and it's something that on our new website we made very clear to students that yes, not that students care, but I tell them the sob story that of decades ago I had a couple opportunities to take the exam, waited for months to get my score and didn't know when it was coming, and if you had to retake it, you had to wait till 6 months later, whatever. But trying to help them appreciate what's being offered to them. Yeah. But all that to say, 2 to 3 times a month, except for December, that has at the end of the month there's a blackout period.
Got it.
Barb, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the CE broker thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some sort of box to check on the MBCOT when you're doing the renewal that yours is loaded into CE brokers, or how would we know whether you have to upload it? I mean, of course we're in CE broker, but for those states who are not, how do is there some way to indicate?
Yeah, so great question. The way we're initially rolling this out is that if they are audited by us, we will ask them to load it into CE Broker. Even if they're not in a state that accepts CE Broker, we would like CE Broker to be our repository. Now, keep in mind, we're doing this in stages just because we want to see how it goes, right? We didn't want to jump in with both feet. But so there's not a box that you would check, but you would be able to just say, here's my CE Broker information. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I try to keep mine, like every time I go to something, I try to upload it into NBCOT. That way I can just keep up with it. But
yeah, but you know what? My recommendation to you now would just get it in CE Broker and you would be good to go.
Okay. I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
This is about doing the survey of the new graduates to adjust the testing information. Is that somehow coordinated with ACOT and the standards, and how is that?
That's a very good question. We make all the information publicly available. We also do what we call is a matrix study, where it compares what we find out in our practice analysis studies with the current standards. Okay, ACOT doesn't reach out to us and ask us, how are you determining entry-level competency? We don't work with them to say, hey, so maybe you need to change standards to this. We're coming from two different perspectives, if you will. Ours is about serving the public interest, as we indicated earlier. I sat on a panel at the last national conference to share with everyone about these practice analysis studies, because the panel was about determining entry-level competency. So I was able to share with them, we're required to do this by our accrediting bodies, and we're hearing from those who are actually practicing. But we perform a matrix analysis to compare the two, but ACOT's decisions, I can't tell you that their decisions in regard to standards look at our practice analysis. I can't tell you that they do that.
Okay.
Just to be clear, what I think we're going to need to do is we probably ought to send out an email to all of this OT community, because they CE Broker needs to be told sometimes that you have two people that need to get access to your credentials or your CE. So we just need to make sure that everybody knows to do that audit, and not assume it's going to be done automatically. And we'll work with the CE Broker to make sure that happens for everybody. Just like if you were licensed in two states, Louisiana and Florida, you'd have to tell CE Broker you're licensed in Florida so that Florida would get them automatically.
Right, does anyone have any other questions? Nope. Dr. Van, can you please check to see if we have any public comment, please?
One moment. No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, great. All right. So Barb, we, as you know, are continuing to work on our rules and regulations. We have just in the rules trying to keep them as flexible as possible. We'll just not state that specifically NBCOT and AOTA and LOTA, but just referring people to CE Broker. But we will get that email from our board to you so that you can have your official word and change your slide.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Darby. Yeah, I just want to thank you all for your time. It's been great working with you folks, and again, we just appreciate that. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I hope you all have great holidays coming up.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, next up will be the rules and regulations review and update. That's the next thing on the agenda.
Jacinta, maybe you can give me sharing permission and I can share the document that we'll work off of. Let's see. There it is. Where were we?
Right, I'm looking on the
Right
thing.
here.
Section 1961. So we should be right there at subchapter H, right, everyone? For continuing ed.
Mhm.
All right, and just to review very quickly, things that were in red were Ingrid and I's suggestions. Things that are highlighted, we needed more information, and anything in green, which is primarily this section, was already adopted and voted on by OTAC with a vote. Doesn't mean that we can't change it, but historically, this has already taken place.
I did notice that, there is some stuff that's in black that should be in green, but I'll point that out when we get to it.
Okay, Ingrid, I'm gonna let you take, please take the wheel.
Okay, so here it starts with the scope of the subchapter, which we did not change. Section 1963 provides the standards for continuing professional education requisite to annual renewal, prescribes the procedure applicable to satisfy and document continual professional ed. Does anybody feel like there needs to be a change to that section, 1963? Okay. In this section, 1965, that's some of it is supposed to be in green. I guess I could do that just right now. It's this part here. Okay, so this section talks about subject to exceptions specified in section 1979. We'll get to that because I think we do need to change some of the exceptions. But anyway, subject to those exceptions to be eligible for renewal, practitioner. I guess we need to change that to OT practitioner, like we've been doing all along.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I could not spell that word for anything, and I noticed that Barb had it misspelled too.
I saw that.
Within each year during which they hold licensure, evidence and document in a manner prescribed by the board the successful completion of. So this is the part that was voted on previously, but it's new. Not less than 15 hours or 1.5 continuing ed, which must include 2 hours of ethics and a 1-hour course provided by LSBME. And even though we've already voted on this in the past, I'm going to bring up a question on whether we should include a requirement that people take ethics annually or take this LSBME course annually. From the perspective of the LSBME course annual, I've been getting the feeling from Susie that the board is not necessarily set up to create a new quiz every year. It can be done though. But I just want to throw that out there. I just want us to rethink, do we want to keep this? What's the pros, what's the cons?
Are you asking specifically that it's
I guess.
Can I make I'd like to make a comment if you don't mind.
sure?
This is particularly the laws and rules in Louisiana. So if the laws and the rules don't change, the course is probably not going to change. Okay. But if you want to change the quiz, that's a different story. But the course itself, the material will be about the laws and rules. Now, if there's a change in the law and the rules or the rules during a year, we'll update the course and then, of course, change the questions. So again, I'm not sure that we need to update the course on an annual basis. Do we want to change the question pool? That's a different story. But you need to tell us what you mean when you say change the course.
No, I guess I didn't mean the course. I meant, we can't, if we have this course that we're requiring people to take every year, and the only way you can kind of really make sure, I guess, they've taken a course is by giving a quiz. But if it's the same 5-question quiz year after year after year, it becomes a little bit pointless. So ideally, somebody from our committee would work with Susie on each year, tweaking at least a couple of the questions so that it changes each year. And that, I think, would be something that Susie has not done with any other entity that's licensed by the board, but she's willing to. I'm not saying that she's not. It just would be different.
Well, the thing to do, the ideal thing to do would be maybe set up a 20-question pool and pick 5 every year and just update the ones that needed to be done, but on a random basis, pick the 5 excluding winning from the year before. And that way you just get a good 20-question pool and only update that question pool if there's a specific law change or rule change.
Yes, and we do have a question pool with even more questions than that have all good questions. So
right.
We do have that set up. I guess, is everybody still okay with that? We want to require that everybody take a 2-hour ethics course and hour LSPME course every year.
So the hour ethics, the course is not just the quiz, right?
For our LSPME course?
Right, like they can't just take that quiz and then they get the hour, right? It's separate.
No, they have to take the course and then take the quiz, pass the quiz, and then they get their 1 hour of CME from the board for the law and rules course. It's not technically the ethics course, it's a law and rules course.
Okay, yeah.
So, but the way we have this written is that people have to take a 2-hour ethics course approved by AOTA, et cetera, and our laws and rules course annually. I'm just making sure everybody's still okay with that.
I am. Anyone else?
And just to be clear, the 1 hour course that we're going to require doesn't count toward one of the hours from the other one.
No, that'd be 2 separate courses of the.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with it staying that way.
Okay. All right, our next section says, it describes what a CEU is. It means 10 hours of participation. Then it says 12 hours or 1.2 CEUs is required to meet the standards prescribed in this subchapter, which of course is confusing to me, considering right above here we said it needs to be a total of 15.
Yeah, I think that should be 15. I'm looking for my original one.
And should we just keep the wording to reflect contact hours versus getting all the confusion about CEUs and CAUs and.
Yes. So we used, okay, above we said 15 contact hours or 1.5 CEUs.
So it seems like this paragraph just serves to define what a CEU is. So if we just call them contact hours, do we need a definition of what a CEU is?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of, the next section, like, I think kind of goes into that.
Oh, and I stand corrected. I see in the paragraph above, it does refer to CEUs. So
Yeah.
it is still needed.
So one CEU but maybe we don't need to repeat ourselves here with this 12 hours or 1 point. We already clarified it in the paragraph before. So this, rather than changing it to 15, it feels like this should just
Repetitive.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we'll keep that definition of what a CEU is.
Can I
All
ask
right.
a question about the ethics? I know this is the one before, but is it pretty easy to find a different ethics course every year that's approved? I've never really looked to see how many ethics courses are available.
I know that I forwarded to only Ingrid, I think. Obviously you wouldn't ask this if so, but I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Ingrid, occupationaltherapy.com just sent out like an email advertising ethics courses.
Yeah, I got the same one, Darby.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't technically looked for them, but I do come across them way more often when I'm not even looking for them. So I assume that there's plenty out there.
Okay. And they're all approved, I guess, through one
Well,
of those.
I mean, the OT.com one I think is approved by AOTA, and I think
Okay.
AOTA offers some. And
Okay.
then I'm pretty sure NBCOT has some. So I mean, maybe we can make sure before we present this to the board, but I'm pretty sure that they're readily available.
Okay.
I
And
guess
who's doing the LSBME course?
the LSBME course is what Susie Allen is working on updating right now.
Okay, that's right. Thanks.
But
And that would be free, correct? The
free.
one,
It'll be free.
the 1 hour would be
As
free.
far as the ethics courses, personally, I'm a little worried that taking a 2-hour ethics course every year would become kind of repetitive for an OT practitioner. But that's my own personal view. But I think that's a good note that we should make sure that there are plenty of them out there, that they do last for 2 hours, that there's not a bunch that are only an hour long, and that they are AOT or NBCOT is doing something every once in a while. Yes, Patricia?
Just as a point of reference, it's for whatever information it gives you. For instance, the state of Louisiana requires a 1-hour ethics course annually. The Bar Association, for myself, I have to take a 1-hour ethics course annually. Just as a frame of reference. If you guys want to, by all means, keep it in place, but just as a frame of reference.
No, we appreciate the frame of reference. When I saw 2 hours just now, I was like, we know that the ones being offered by AOTA are 2 hours. What if they've been reduced? You know.
Well, that was going to be my question too, because I know way back we talked about making it 2 hours because the one that someone was offering was the 2 hour in length. But are we still sure that that's what's out there?
I'm going to put this in yellow so that we do a little bit of yellow means we need more information.
And what if it was, I know you're hardly moved on and I'm back to it, but if the wording wasn't just ethics, but more along the lines of that category that's on the exam, actually, I'm looking for the wording, but she just had it on the PowerPoint about like professionalism, responsibility, upholding, something like that. I know it's the third category of the CODA exam where it has the assessment part, the intervention part, and then the third is.
That was called managing services on that PowerPoint slide.
What now?
On her PowerPoint slide, that piece of the certification exam was called management of services.
Oh, the CODA's is different. It's called Oh, darn. Are you looking at the CODA one?
Oh, no, I was thinking of, I was remembering the OT one. The fourth one was called management.
I can't find the link anymore.
I
They
think
have the
that the
PowerPoint.
ethics, term ethics does encompass everything like professional behaviors and things like that. But I think we need to do more, get some more information about ethics courses and whether they are 1 hour long, 2 hours long, called something else, how many there are. Make sure that this is viable.
Okay.
I would vote on the 1 hour ethics personally instead of the 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down. Amy would rather 1 hour.
I'm thinking one also.
I think the one would just be more doable for everyone rather than expanding the category and then maybe like how would that cross-reference into CE broker? It seems like ethics.
Well, and it also opens up the opportunity to, when you go to an LOTA meeting, and if the topic was about ethics or professional responsibility or something like that, you could use that as your continuing education credit. And it's, you only get 1 hour for those meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that would change our contact hours to 14.
I think we need to keep 15 and maybe just do 13 in the other 2 if y'all want to do 1 for each.
I don't know though, Darby, because the way continuing ed courses are set up, they're set up for 12 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that because you're going to find, I mean, you'd have to just get a random course or go.
Yeah, people would wind up just throwing in some stupid thing for an hour. The most states require 12, and the continuing ed providers have kind of set themselves up that way.
I think that's, I'm guessing that's why we did 2 hours of ethics back then.
Well, Brenda was saying,
And I think we knew that AOTA or somebody had a 2 hour course, and that's, and
yeah,
then,
I remember
at that point, I think LOTA was offering to create a 2 hour course, and that's how we came up with the 2. But as long as we've been working on this, that was possibly 40 years ago.
Yeah.
No, I remember us looking it up, Brenda, and I'm trying to navigate. AOTA changed their site again. I'm trying to find some things on AOTA for the ethics. Yeah, I mean, I think even with the NBCOT, like the 2 hours is not hard to find.
I just think it's longer than OTs need. I don't think this is, I don't think on an annual basis that OTs and OTAs need 2 hours of ethics training every year. That their time and money.
I'm looking online and it looks like most of them are 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that could be, this is just the requirement. If you wind up having to take 2 hour course, you wind up having to take a 2 hour course. But if we say that it has to be 2 hours, and then 3 years from now, most of the courses have been shrunk to an hour, then
That's true. I'm just saying that might be why we put 2 hours, because it looks like most of them are, but you're right about that. We don't want to have to go back in and change it.
I think we should look at it from the perspective of what do OT practitioners need in order to make them, rather than like making a rule to fit what's existing right now, what do we feel, what do we as OT practitioners feel like OTs need annually in order to ensure that they are doing the best quality care for the public. And to me, an hour long of ethics per year would be plenty.
So I'm pulling up from that, the documents for the disciplinary action summaries, the top 5 cases by type of behavior that people receive disciplinary action. Practicing with an expired license, documentation, felony conviction, lack of continuing ed, and unprofessional conduct. Those are the top 5 things. So, I mean, it's, you know, the disciplinary parts, and I know from some of the stuff, Ingrid, that we've learned about, that you shared with us, I don't think it was last meeting, but maybe the one before, you know, why people lose their license or literally ethical situations.
Yes, yeah, I know, but we are going to be requiring this every year, so I think we'll be getting the message in, and so I mean, to me, it sounds like just the reference point from lawyers and from probably, I think PTs aren't requiring 2 hours of ethics either. And just from what I know about OT practitioners, I feel like an hour would ensure the ethical, help improve the ethical behavior of OT practitioners in Louisiana.
I agree. And I also think that not AOTA courses, I know every job I've ever had, there's tons of ethic courses that you need to take. In addition, that's not going to count for AOTA. It won't approve, but every company I've worked for, I've had to take ethics classes just for annual stuff. So I think you are getting it.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, can I guess I get everybody, even though we usually wait till further down, I feel like we've had a lot of discussion about this. So let's kind of vote on just section 1965 with the wording that I have up there: 1 hour of ethics, 1 hour of the LSBMU course. So for a total of 14 contact hours per year. Everybody in favor, please say aye. Aye.
In favor of what? Changing it to 14 hours?
Yes, and
or changing it to
all
1
the
hour.
wording we have in front of us, all the changes we have in front of us there.
But isn't it 2 different issues? One would be 1 hour ethic, because we could technically change the 1 hour of ethics and still keep the 15 contact hours, right? But
Yes, I think that would be, I think that would be difficult because
do most people take 12-hour courses?
yeah, the courses themselves are set up and designed for like 8 hours and 4 hours.
I guess I'm still just confused on that piece.
Yeah, I am too, Brenda.
So are you saying that the majority of people get their continuing education from like only going to full day, and those are built for 6 hours of credit, or is that how the 12 comes up? I guess that's the piece I'm just confused about.
Our current rules say you have to have 12 hours per year, and that matches NBCOT's 36 every 3 years, probably matches most states. And as a result of that, I'm just saying that most continuing education providers have created courses that kind of help people get 12 hours, whether it be that they do 8-hour classes and 4-hour classes and 6-hour classes, so you take 2 6-hour, but it's just sort of designed that way. And it would continue to match what you have to get for NBCOT each year also. 12 hours of the practice piece. We're of course adding on 2 hours, 1 ethics, 1 rules and law. I mean, who who feels, I guess we could start by just finding out who feels that we should keep it at 15 hours, and that would mean 13 hours of practice related CE.
I vote for 14.
And as I'm thinking it through, our current is 12, and we were getting to the 15 by adding the 2. Maybe I'm realizing I'm just slow at figuring this out. We were getting there by adding the 2 plus the 1.
Right.
So if we change it to the 1, we're not watering down what we had to start with, and we're still adding the 1 hour of ethics and the 1 hour of jurisprudence.
Correct.
So that
I'm good
makes
with the
me,
14. Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
makes me okay with it.
I'm good with the 14.
So my,
I agree, 14.
Okay, Dr. Collada, Dr. Van?
Just so you know, in CE Broker, you can upload as many as you want. You can upload 50. As long as you meet the minimum requirements, it's not going to be a problem. And if you have those others that are needed for your NBCOT, they'll be appropriately there too. So it's not going to be 15 and you stop or 14 and you stop. You can load as many as you want. We just need to make sure that you meet the minimum requirements. And so that other states may have more than you, or NBCOT may have, so you may want to do 26 in a year, and then you can use those for your 3-year certification. So you're not bound by a minimum number. You can upload as much as you want.
That's good. Okay, well, is anybody opposed to how we have this section 1965, any aspect of it written? Okay, so we'll start 1965. All right, we will now move on to section 1967. This
So
is
wait,
where,
go back. So you're saying the 14, is that what you're?
yeah, that's what I was asking, if anybody was opposed to anything that's written in section 1965 as shown on the screen there.
Okay, I did, but you didn't take an official vote. Like, I'm just
I
looking
guess-
up, like, Alabama, it looks like I'm trying to look at other states. They're 15. And just trying to see like kind of what the consensus is for other states. If y'all don't mind us doing that, or if you even care about that, like,
That's probably not a bad idea.
I think Texas is 15, but it's 30 over 2 years.
yeah, I mean, do y'all want me to do that? Maybe we can table this and make compare to other states, or y'all just want to go with?
I just don't feel, I mean, do we think that somebody needs more than 12 hours of practice related hours? 12 has been fine with us all this time. We're still asking for 12 practice related hours per year.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm just
part's not
asking.
changed. That part's not changed. I mean, I guess some other states may require 15. I know plenty require 12.
There's a AOTA document, looks like from May of 22 that has each state's requirement.
Yeah,
And NBCOT is 36 hours over 3 years, which is 12 hours per year.
Right.
right.
This also says that Louisiana requires 15, so I don't know if this is accurate.
Oh, wow. That's
Didn't a long time ago, didn't we require 15?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
way
We
back,
did.
way back
We
when us
did, but this
dinosaurs
is-
went to school.
exactly.
It's
And
May
then
of 22.
it got changed about probably what, like 10, 20 years ago. It got,
Right, it's been a while.
yeah, it got
At least
So-
12 years,
well.
at least 12 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
so
when I
can't
moved
trust
here.
this document. Never mind.
And I personally don't have any problem with keeping it at 12. And then adding these two.
I mean, according to this, I'm seeing mostly 12, but like I said, I don't think it's accurate. As Louisiana wrong.
Yeah, okay, well, let's
We
just
will
move
table
on.
this. We won't vote on it now.
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to see if people wanted to look at that. Like, it's okay if we don't, like, I was just throwing it out there.
Yeah. And then two, thinking of kind of the course of where we're evolving this and how now we're putting tighter parameters on, it has to be approved by an OT licensed. You know,
Right,
it has to,
certain people in
we've kind
place.
of narrowed what's accepted. So I think we have a stronger educational component now in our 12 hours.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
All in favor of section 1965 as the way it's written here on the screen, say aye.
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 Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Do we ask if there's public comment after we take a vote like
well,
that?
we have to make a motion to accept it, right?
Oh, okay.
And
I'll
you
make it-
actually have to get the public comment before you vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a public comment? Dr. Van, on this?
I see.
As a matter of fact, let's just also say that we're all including 1963 and 1965.
Yeah.
Any public comments for section 1963 or 1965?
Not at this time.
Okay, so one
Thank
more
you.
time, we're gonna take another vote. Then all in favor of accepting 19.
Does someone have to move to vote first?
Yeah, you have to make a motion.
I'll motion that we take the vote on section 1963 and 1965.
Second.
That was Kim.
Seconded it?
Kim,
Kim.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay. And then we'll move on.
All right. Section 1967, what qualifies as continuing professional ed? So this is in green. This is all stuff that we have agreed upon in the past. That needs to be a program approved by AOTA, LOTA, or NBCOT. Documentation shall consist of course completion certificate. It should include the name and date of the course and the number of CEUs or contact hours earned.
Okay.
The next section is newly added, in which we were going to allow OT practitioners to earn up to 4 contact hours per year by providing level 2 fieldwork education to OT or OTA students. Documentation shall consist of a certificate or letter from the academic fieldwork coordinator of the affiliating school, attesting to the licensee's role and number of weeks as the fieldwork educator. 1 continuing education contact hour will be earned for each 3-week period of level 2 fieldwork education. And then we had created this grid showing that if you were a fieldwork educator for between 3 and 5 weeks, you would get 1 hour, 6 to 8, 2, 9 to 11, 3, and 12 weeks 4.
Ingrid, right at the beginning, should that say occupational therapy practitioner student, or you want to leave it as
On this
therapy or
case,
assistant,
I think on this case, we ought to leave it
like
separate.
that for student? Okay. All right.
Okay, then we talk about if somebody does a presentation as opposed to attending one. And we said that we clarified that it has to be an initial presentation. So if somebody is doing the same continuing ed presentation 5 times, they can't use it 5 times. Okay, and the number of CEUs earned is equal to 2 times the number of CEUs granted to a course participant. Documentation shall consist of a course completion certificate, an official program, or a letter from the course sponsor. The certificate, program, or letter shall have the applicant's name listed as the presenter and state the number of participant CEUs earned.
And I'm assuming that this would be applicable if more than one person presents, correct? Both would earn 2 times.
You know, we didn't clarify that, but I would assume that.
So do we need to put like applicants or presenter and then with an S behind it, or? I don't know how many times it's 2 people, but it just occurred to me that sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. And each person would get credit for the initial presentation. Excuse me. Comments on that? How do y'all feel about that? Especially those people who've presented and have more than one.
I guess, and maybe this is just because I work with adolescents who are always looking for a loophole, but the first thing that pops in my head is if not, and I think that's important to list the co-presenter, but to be careful that we don't make it like if the course is, 6 hours long and I sit on the course as a panel participant for the last hour, then I get 6 hours of credit. And I don't know how often that occurs, if that's even an issue.
Dr. Van has his hand raised. I'm not sure if that's for now or.
Thank you. I just saw that. Dr. Van, do you ever?
Yeah, I'm think maybe when we put these kinds of things in, we didn't recognize NBCOT's linkage to CE Broker and everything else that we learned about today. Are all of these kinds of coursework that we're describing, preparation, hands-on experience, is that NBCTO approved, because is that approved by the NBCOT?
Not necessarily. You might be asked to do a presentation for a Louisiana OT Association conference, and it would have nothing to do with NBCOT.
Well, what I'm concerned about, just so you'll know, I mean, this now to the how do I want to say, the less keen eye in reading the rules could be confused. I did this and I sent it to CE Broker and NBCOT is not recognizing it. Why am I doing it?
Well, the way I understood your question is, I think that NBCOT does. They do give you credit for doing presentations. They give you credit for supervising fieldwork students, for publishing articles and things like that.
Okay, well, that's why I was asking. Ingrid said it was not necessarily, and I just don't want to make people think that they're going to get it from us and not get it from them, and they did the wrong thing.
They'll get both. Yeah.
Yeah. In my experience, NBCOT has been, I don't want to say lenient, but they have accepted more than LSBME in the past.
Okay.
Okay, so do we say a license? I would kind of rather leave it the way it is as opposed to saying institutes presented or co-presented. But we could add the words presented or co-presented, right here. Just put the little flasher.
In my opinion, I would just leave it as presented because either way, if you like, I mostly co-present things, and we put in equal amount of work. We put in equal amount of time in the presentation. It's just, it's just that you have 2 bodies. So I don't know if we want to complicate it.
I think that would complicate it too. I think if someone co-presented, they would read this and say, I can submit this.
Yeah, I think I would leave it as is. And then just a grammar clarification in there too. There's 3 times when we talk about CEUs and contact hours, and all 3 of them should probably say the same thing.
Okay. The number of CEUs.
So like the number of CEUs or contact hours, right there where your cursor is.
Yep. Yep.
And then at the bottom where it said CEUs or course hours earned, that should probably be CEUs or contact hours earned.
Thank you.
Again, I work with adolescents.
Okay, and then the section E is also newly added.
Okay,
And
can we back up 1 second? All right, let's just say I gotta read it again. So the presenter gets 2 times the number of CEUs than the person attending. Is that right?
correct.
Okay.
Okay, so this is newly added regarding post-professional education. A licensee may earn continuing education contact hours for successful completion of OT coursework in a post-professional program at an accredited university listed on AOTA's website. Coursework must be from one of the following degree programs: post-professional doctorate, PhD in OT, bridge program for OTAs leading to MOT or OTD. No CEUs will be awarded for a grade of D or F in the course. Number of CEUs or contact hours awarded will be 2 times the number of credit hours of the coursework. For example, a 1 credit hour course will earn 2 contact hours.
Should be I period, E period, comma.
Period, E period, comma.
Okay,
Will
got
earn
it.
2 contact hours. A 2 credit hour course will earn 4 contact hours, etc. Documentation shall consist of official or unofficial transcript from the university. No CEUs or contact hours will be awarded for coursework in any degree program other than those listed.
Could we just change that to official transcript? Because I'm not sure what an unofficial transcript is.
The reason I put it as unofficial is official transcripts frequently cost money. Unofficial transcripts, like we accept unofficial transcripts to accept people into our OT program. Eventually it has to be an official one, but we make the admissions decision based on unofficial transcripts, and then when they eventually get their official ones, they, we require that, but it would be a little bit onerous to get official transcripts every time for every semester that you're taking classes.
We can do that. That can be done with Parchment as we move into Parchment, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I mean, I understand it. It's not, we're going to make it as least onerous as possible by bringing Parchment online. If they say I went to XYZ University for 3 credit hours last semester, all I have to do is we run it through Parchment and get the data back. There may be a small fee that they pay to get us an official transcript, but you want an official transcript to admit them to the program, and I think we ought to have an official transcript to continue licensing them. That's all I'm saying. But if you want to do it differently, that's fine.
I think what we thought about the unofficial was because every university has the online access to the transcript. The student has the online access to their own transcript and can be printed off from that. But whenever we do an official transcript from the university, it has to go directly. It can't go to the student to be official. It has to go directly to the, like you said, LSBME for it to be official. Once it's opened by the student, it's considered unofficial.
But it is still coming directly from it's still the official. I can't use the word official. It's all
only my concern is I don't want to set up anybody who would try to deceive the agency. Okay, yeah. But that's okay. I understand if we find that there's any deceit, that'll be a whole different problem. But again, it's just going to be easier for us to do it officially now that we move it into Parchment. But you do whatever you want to do.
All right, we'll turn that into yellow and learn a little bit more about Parchment. And
I think with Parchment, it won't be such a huge deal to do that. But with us not being connected to them, then that would be that would be an issue.
Well, we are looking for Parchment to be within the first 4 to 6 weeks of 2023, long before these rules are finalized.
Well, if we're on Parchment well before these are finalized, then should we change it to official transcript? Carolyn, you're saying that would be,
I mean, it would be easy,
okay.
but you know, like if it was, if LSBME didn't have Parchment, it would have to take place through the mail to be official.
I know, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, and that's why we have it like it is right now. So
let's leave it like it is right now. And other than the unofficial piece, anything else about awarding based on participation in a post-profession, this whole section E, any other comments from everybody, anybody? All right, next section is 1969. Approval of program sponsors. I don't know what I'm looking at right now. I was looking at my own notes. Okay, yeah. I didn't know if this one needed to be updated with NBCOT included. Or have we already said this and do we need this? Any program, course, seminar, workshop, or other activity meeting the standards sponsored or offered by AOTA, AOTA approved provider, or LOTA shall be presumptively deemed approved by the board for purposes of qualifying as an approved continuing professional ed program under these rules.
Do we still need that now that we're only accepting AOTA, LOTA, and NBCOT?
That was my question. What do you think, Dr. Van?
No, that's the kind of thing you can't say too many times, but because each one serves to clarify the other, but it's up to you. I mean, we're going to enforce what we have said all along, and it's going to be CE Broker that's going to be actually rejecting them. Then they'll be coming to us and say, why was my course rejected? And we'll quote them the section of the rule that's appropriate or both that are appropriate. But that's our issue. We're going to tell CE Broker to follow the rules. CE Broker follows the rules. And then when somebody takes umbrage, they come to us and we say, here's the rules you got to follow. Whatever they say, we'll make it enforced.
we just need to make sure that it says the same thing in both places.
Yeah, and maybe we can consolidate it instead of an A and a B of just an A
Well,
for.
it feels, let's look at B because that one feels like, well, I guess we do. Let's look at B before we look back at A. Upon recommendation of the advisory committee, which is us, the board may designate additional organizations and entities whose programs, courses, seminars, workshops, or other activities shall be deemed approved by the board for purposes of qualifying as continuing professional ed.
You want to get out of that business. You want to get out of that business.
Well, I thought that was just saying, like, if one day we say, hey, you know, there's another place, like if we decide to do it like from an AMA or something to take continuing ed, that gives us the freedom to do that. This isn't saying that we're going to approve the course, but it's saying that we may designate additional organizations.
Okay, so let's just.
Broker.
Okay, well, here's the problem that I think it creates for you. And if I'm wrong, and I apologize. But Joe and Mary decide they want to put a course on. They can't get it AOTA approved. They can't get it LOTA approved. They can't get it NBCOT approved. So they decide to appeal to the Board of Medical Examiners to get it approved under these rules. We then have to send it to you. You have to say yes or no. It has to come back to the board with that recommendation, and then we send a letter out saying, sorry, you can't do it. Okay? But again, I think understand that we want to, if you don't put that in, the rest of it says what it says, and it's easy and it's a standard, and it doesn't put you in a position of having to review anybody who wants to put on a course.
Doesn't it have to go to LOTA?
They could be rejected by LOTA. They could be rejected by AOTA. They could be rejected by NPCOT, but the way I read this, they can still come and ask us to approve it.
Yeah, and see, I look at it as it's saying that if we want to open CE broker up to more like programs or facilities, then we can.
I think so too. And Dr. Van, when we get to the next section about approval of programs, that's where it talks about that OTAC is going to be approving courses. That's where we definitely need to change. I think this letter B is about adding more entities. Like, for example, we had talked about adding AMA maybe, but we might not ever want to do that, but just have the flexibility to do it.
All right, so we're talking about section 1971A, right?
You're talking about 1969B is what we were talking about.
All right. So on the recommendation of the advisory committee, that's you, the board may designate additional organizations and entities whose programs, courses, seminars, and workshops or other actions shall be deemed approved by the board for purposes of qualifying as an approved continuing professional education program. Nowhere in that statement does it say it's coming by an entity like the AMA. It says you have to advise the board has to approve it, and we have to receive the request. It's any continuing professional education program under 1967.
So maybe it needs to read something about like the organization to be accepted and by the, I know we didn't name specifically CE broker in case it changed, but.
No, CE broker does what we tell it to do for Louisiana.
Doesn't this section basically, 1969B give us, meaning OTAC, the ability to tell CE broker, okay, now in addition to taking AOTA, LOTA, NBCOT, we also want you to take AMA.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it.
But that's what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
And let's say it that way, because the way this is written, and Pat, jump in if I'm wrong, step on me, I don't care, keep me from stepping on my own anatomy. But the way I read this is Dr. Collada could put on a course on OT. It's not approved by AOTA, LOTA, or NBCOT, and I can ask the board to approve it. You've got to review it. The board's got to say no after you say no, and it's just a waste of time and effort.
I think that's actually in 1971, section 1971.
I think what he's saying is it doesn't define it very well.
All right.
We're going through it piece by piece, but anybody else is going to be looking at it is going to just take that for what it says right there, and they're going to say, well, I can appeal to the board or the committee. And so, I mean, I get what Dr. Van is saying, because it's not super defined in there about what we think it says. Nobody else might understand that.
So A probably needs to list the AOTA, the NBCOT, and LOTA, and then B needs to say that under the recommendation of the advisory board, we can change the providers accepted by the firm that's by CE broker without naming specifically CE broker.
Okay, don't say CE broker in it at all.
Right, no, I know, but I remember the words that we used instead of.
Well, why don't you say this? The board may designate additional organizations or additional nationally accredited organizations for continuing education when there is a affirmative recommendation from the advisory committee to do so. And that way you've eliminated the mom and pops. It's a nationally accredited thing. At that point, it could be something that all of a sudden the AMA puts on something that everybody wants to go to. And all you have to do is say that's something that you initiate the request, the board approves it, and that way it's going to be clear that the outside people don't just bring a mom and pop course to us to review anymore.
Is nationally accredited defined anywhere else in the rules?
No, but we haven't even gotten to the definitions section.
Okay. That's the only loophole that I see with that is someone can say, well, I'm accredited by XYZ, but it's not, doesn't count for you as someone you would consider nationally accredited. So just make a note to self that we need to make sure we define that somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. This next section is the one where we want to get out of the business, I think. 1971, approval of programs. A continuing professional ed program by an organization not deemed approved by the board, in other words, not one of the ones listed above, may be pre-approved by the board as a program qualifying and acceptable for satisfying continuing professional ed requirements. Upon written request to the board.
Delete that whole section.
Right, that's the section that we want to get rid of, exactly.
Right.
Oops.
And it talks about $30 and.
So we're not doing that anymore at all.
No.
Okay, and then that was letter A, and that, does that still go? Yeah, that's still here.
Yeah, it goes all the way to section 1973.
Okay. That's the part that I think is worked out.
Yeah. But we're gonna have to work on the wording for 1969. I know we moved on, but.
I'll highlight this yellow too, since we're not fully okay with that yet.
Yeah.
Documentation procedure. Looks like we added this or changed something. Annual documentation and certification of satisfaction of the education requirements shall accompany an applicant's annual renewal of licensure in a format prescribed by the board and must be completed prior to renewal of license.
I'm not sure why we added that, like if there was an issue or not.
Well, we are not going to renew a license if they've not done continuing education. We are going to, this is going to be the way we avoid the audits. This is going to be the way that we make sure we can say to the legislature, every person licensed in this state has done CEs.
I think we added it, Darby, because previously there was some language that made it sound like as long as you got those CEUs within 60 days of expiration, you could still practice. But now, you know, with CE Broker, we're saying no, if you haven't gotten your CEUs by the time it's time to renew, you can't practice. So I think that's why we added that there.
Okay.
Okay, letter B. Any certification of professional ed not presumptively approved by the board pursuant to these rules or pre-approved by the board in writing, I think we need to probably get rid of that, shall be referred to the advisory committee. I guess this part needs to go, huh?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about like 10 days of notice and stuff about, I mean, we won't have to do that with the CE Broker anymore.
If the advisor is a permit. That goes all the way to here.
Yep.
So the documentation procedure, since this section, is this where we need to say like, it has to be entered into CE Broker by the last day of the month of the license expiration?
No, it has to be turned in before the license is applied, the renewal license is applied for.
Okay.
So we don't care. They can turn it in. Let's say that they renew in January 15th or January 30th. They can turn them in September the 20th of the year before because it's the rolling 12 months back.
I think in the next section it gets into what happens if you haven't done it on time, and we can make sure Dr. Van feels like it's written correctly.
Yeah, but I was just trying to say, what do we need to add in this part that's a documentation procedure? So if somebody's like trying to figure out how they document their CEUs, this is the section they go to.
Well, the format prescribed by the board keeps it nice and vague so that we can have CE broker this year and something else next year.
Well, let me say this to you. We use the term electronic continuing education tracking system.
That's what it was.
And because that way it allows us to change tracking systems if CE broker suddenly becomes unaffordable or unreasonable. The good news is right now it is the low bidder and we have no problem with it.
Can you give me those words again?
Electronic continuing education tracking system.
Okay, so where does that go in the sentence?
Well, it's just saying that the continuing education units or contact hours has to be uploaded into the electronic CE tracking system before renewal license is applied for.
So to answer your question, Ingrid, where does it go in the sentence? Could it just be in a format utilizing electronic continuing education tracking system prescribed by the board?
Okay. What happened? Okay, in a format using.
And this may be a question for Patricia.
Yeah, we can tune that language up. Patricia and I
Yeah.
can tune that language up.
And like, are we able to do an A without a B under these sections?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're talking about failure to satisfy the requirements, section 1975. All requirements must be satisfied and verified by the board's contractor prior to granting the privilege of license renewal. License may be renewed 60 days prior to the last day of the applicant's birth month. Does this sound correct to you, Dr. Van?
Al, I got to ask Alan, we have a funny thing. Alan, are you still there with us?
Sir?
Alan, if you see on the screen, paragraph A, it must be renewed, license may be renewed 60 days prior. Don't we have that silly thing about 58? Or did
It's
we finally
actually
change?
50, it's actually 56 days. It's 8 weeks, 8 weeks.
Why don't we just say 8 weeks prior to the last day of the applicant's birth month? I didn't want to get 4 days, get people messed up.
All right. And A1, failure to comply with the continuing ed requirements prior to renewal results in an expired license, which must be renewed by completion of required CEUs in less than 60 days from the time of expiration of license. A license not renewed by the last day of the practitioner's birth month will result in an inactive license that must be renewed prior to any OT practice by the licensee. Something about 1 and 2 together, I feel like they don't pair well. The number one still sounds like you could practice for 60 days to me.
Yeah, I agree, Ingrid.
Wait a minute. How do people practice with an expired license?
Well, yes, I hear you. I just don't want to make it sound like that it's okay. I feel like number 1 makes it sound that way.
Well, okay, but again, an expired license is an expired license. I mean, you need to understand, and maybe you all don't know, and maybe we can tell you, that a lot of hospitals that employ our licensees pull 2 times, some of them pull as much as 3 times a month, our database to make sure licenses are valid on their employees, whether that be docs and the medical staff, or PAs that work in the hospital, that kind of thing, OTs that work in the hospital. So they're going to know, okay, and they're going to stop you. But the people, Patricia's got a hand up. Maybe she's got a suggestion on how to handle that.
Well, I mean, that's all true, Dr. Van, but I do agree with Ingrid and whoever else was chiming in that the language of one almost sounds like, yeah, it's expired, but you have a 60-day grace period. And so we need to tighten up that language. If you want to say, put a period after an expired license and loss of the ability for continued practice. However, you can renew your license as long as you do it within 60 days, as opposed to filling out a complete new application for license. Just that's the wiggle room that you need there. It implies a grace period, and I agree.
Okay, let's do this. There's a term of art that we're missing, and I can go offline and talk to Aloma to get it. But they have a term of art in licensing, and I'm sorry, I'm blocking on it. Maybe Alan can remember what it is. But when you don't renew your license, you do have a grace period to renew by only paying a fee, but you don't have the right to practice. Okay?
That's correct. And it's up to a full year.
Up to a full year. Okay.
Yeah, but I think you're looking for words like the license expired and is null and void, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it almost sounds like what's in 2 needs to be moved up into number 1 right after where it talks about the expired license, and then maybe talk about they have 60 days to renew it before they have to do something. I don't know why
They pay a small fine to do it, but that's all.
Yeah, maybe that needs to be number 2.
Yeah, if they don't do it within the 60 days, then they just have to start over from scratch and submit a new application, correct? Yeah.
That must be renewed prior to any, I'm moving part of number 2 up to number 1.
And look, Pat's going to dissect this once we get this and write it and redo it. Pat's going to make sure it does what you wanted to say, but we're taking notes upon what you want to say. At least I am, and I know Pat is too.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like 2 different things. Failure to comply results in an expired license that must be renewed prior to any occupational therapy practice. And then continuing education units received within 60 days of expiration will allow the licensee to renew.
To apply for renewal.
Right.
Ingrid, we've reached the hour mark. Do you want to just try to work on this? And then we can regroup at our next meeting? Would that work? Or do you want to, because I don't feel like we're going to be able to get this all down like we want it, but if we can work on it and then we can pass it by Patricia and Dr. Van, if we have questions about the specifics.
Yeah, and I can send you some comparable language that might work for you.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
Can I make a suggestion based upon what we heard from the NBCOT? Do you want to make a non-voting member or add a member or change the composure or of I should say the configuration and membership of the advisory committee to include an NBCOT representative or not?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I think the ambassador program is what is there a good way of keeping in touch with us?
That's fine.
We can always invite them if there's ever anything that we think would we can invite that ambassador to sit in.
And there's been multiple times that we've had questions that I've sent an email to Barbara or Sean or both of them, and they've answered almost instantly, or explained, got us the information, gave us links to the data. So we have them as a resource, and quite often I've used them.
Okay, I just I wanted you know, she made, you know, she wanted to get them involved, and I didn't know if you wanted to, and that's fine with me. I just looking over my notes to make sure we do what we wanted to make sure they were
Yeah.
suggesting.
Okay, so we'll stop here and, then prior to our next meeting, which we still have to schedule, you know, everybody just look forward, if you would, at, the rest of this whole continuing education section, especially the exceptions. I
And-
personally do not think that if, just because you're employed by the state, that you be allowed to get away with, no seat use.
And I recall a long discussion about that several meetings back. So I was going to say, can we just make sure that's in whatever color it is? That means we have to look at it again.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually change anything. It's still black. That's,
Okay, I know
we've talked about it, but we didn't change it, so.
okay, I was going to say, I know we beat the horse a little bit before, but,
Yeah. So then, yeah, just look forward, you know, before whatever meeting and start looking at the OT and OTA subchapter, which, obviously will, actually, you know what? Hold on, let me say this. This next section, after we finish, the continuing ed, this next one called Professional and Occupational Standards is a lot of definitions. That's what, oh, hey, Glenn, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. There didn't seem like a good spot to interrupt, but I'm going to have to run at 12:40. I'm sorry. I just have to still try and get some time in with some patients this afternoon. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for participating. But this section is all definitions and what Patricia was saying earlier, what do we need to define in the document? I actually, Darby and I have talked in the past that even though it looks like there's a lot of red and yellow, because she and I looked at this, I think we ought to save the definitions for the end, like change all the rules and then come back and see what do we need to define.
Yeah.
Because this section contains a lot of definitions I don't think we're going to need, but we won't know that until we've amended all the rules. So if you are looking forward, I'd ask you to actually skip that section and look all the way here to where we start subchapter B.
And what about 10:30 on the 16th of December?
We can, I'm gonna turn it back to Darby for that.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to skip to that section? We do have another agenda item for talking about the referral sources and the process. And then number 4 is the future meeting date. So did you want to, excuse me, to discuss the meeting dates first?
I apologize. I thought you were not going to handle it for all source. I apologize. I misunderstood.
Well, maybe do the meeting so Glenn can comment while he's still here.
Okay. Let's see. So one of the things that we have to discuss is, I guess, the meeting on 12/16, which I don't think Dr. Mann is available. So
I'm available. I am in town.
Oh, you are in town.
I'm
Okay.
going 1 through 10.
Okay, so I guess everyone needs to look at their calendars. So look at 12/16.
I know I'm not available.
I am available.
Yeah, I had it saved on my calendar, so I was going to be able to attend.
Okay. Amy,
I'm available.
Raylina, did you come
I'm
in?
available.
Yes.
Yes.
Ingrid,
Yes.
Kim,
I'm unsure.
okay,
Who was that? It was
Did you
unsure.
say Kim?
Kim,
Yeah.
and Caroline, you were not, right?
Right, I was, but when I thought it was canceled and I scheduled something.
Okay. So,
The 20th, let's see, the 23rd would be hard for us because it's right before the board meeting.
Oh no, we wouldn't want to be that close to Christmas.
Okay, so I guess we can plan on to meet on December 16th.
Mhm.
And then, in the meantime, I guess what I can do is, unless I want to talk about it today, is we do have dates that, we know for sure that Dr. Van is available. We just haven't really discussed, like if we want to move to monthly increments. The goal is to finish the rules by June. So if we want to do monthly, we have the dates for Dr. Van that he's available. We also have the option to increase the time that we work on the rules to 90 minutes. We can do 60 minutes with a break and then another 60 minutes, or decide on a chunk. So like, you know, we tend to get caught up with like little things, which definitely need discussing, but sometimes takes a little bit longer to decipher than expected. So we're just kind of asking y'all, you know, we'd ask y'all to think about it. Now we're just trying to collect the thoughts to see what's feasible for us to do if we meet on a monthly basis to get these done by June.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have to start 10:30? Can we start earlier? Is that possible?
Dr. Van?
We could probably start at 10 on a Friday.
Would y'all be
We-
okay with that?
Just not to run into people's, you know, their afternoon kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, that would be good for me, 10.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Does that include December 16th, Dr. Van?
That includes December 16th.
Okay, so that's one thing we can do. Also, you know, Ingrid and I are also willing to come up with the draft prior, you know, how we did before, so that at least some of it's like, we can just say like, hey, we've already read through this and this needs to be wiped out, and then y'all can just look through it quickly to see. It seems to make it go much quicker. But what we need to know is if we're meeting on this monthly basis, how long or what's the format? Like stick to because the 1 hour doesn't seem to be getting us very far quickly. So 90 minutes, do we do 60 minutes followed by another 60 minutes with a break, or do we do it by chunk? What do y'all thought?
Y'all control the first part of the meeting by just what you put on the agenda.
Right.
So we don't have a problem with that. But if there's an issue that has to be addressed in executive session because of something coming from the investigations department, we have no control over that. We got to put it in. We got to get it done. So you could do that, okay, and then, you know, go into executive session, I guess, and come back and work. But understand, I don't have a choice when it's an investigative matter. We got to get it done to get that to the board.
Correct, but like today, we still have the referral source for Practice Act thing to discuss. And so like, that's another thing that would like take up time that technically wasn't really expected, but it's very important to inform our board of sort of the procedures.
I understand. Let's take that.
Yeah. What do
Well,
y'all think?
I think Darby's still hoping for a resolution on the time. It just has to do with sometimes detail fatigue starts setting in, and so maybe if you want to plan the next couple for 90 minutes of rulemaking and then a half hour for other business and see how that goes.
Are y'all comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have an end time ever for the meeting? Because I never know when it ends. So I think almost like you have an end time, and then if you save the rules to last, and then we work until whatever that meeting ends. I don't know.
It's just hard because sometimes things come up, and then if we only have like, say, 15 minutes for the rules, then we're not gonna meet our deadline, you know, and that's really how this has taken years and years and years. It would be helpful, I know, to all of us to have a specific end time. But it's just really hard to gauge. So what if we just commit to 90 minutes and we'll see how that goes, and then just kind of advise, you know, revise it as needed?
Yeah, or schedule block off 10 to 12 if that's okay with everyone's schedule going forward. And then if you run out of gas, just end early.
Yeah, we probably have to do it more like 10 to 12:30.
Yeah,
Right, or 10 to, or everyone plan on at least like 10 to 1, because like, I, we all know we're not getting as fast as far as we want to. And I know some of us want to see this in our lifetime.
Well, we'll work with you all any way we can. Sometimes it just, like I said, the issue is when it comes up, we have to address an issue that comes from investigations. You don't have a luxury of ignoring that.
right.
I have to.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying. If
so-
we all kind of understand that we need to block at least 3 hours for these meetings in our day, on that day.
Okay. So we'll do 10 to 1 and then try to do 90 minutes of rules. No matter what, 1 o'clock, then we'll stop. Fair enough? Okay.
Barbie, you've got next year's dates.
Yeah, if y'all could share the screen with me, I kind of put them on a spreadsheet and then we got them from Dr. Van.
You're a co-host, Darby, you can share.
And also, just for everyone's, information, if for some reason you have to miss a meeting, all or part, you can always go back and watch it on YouTube. You can watch it start to finish and see
Yeah.
exactly what was done in your absence.
Okay, all right, y'all, should be able to, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the dates. The ones that are in blue are the ones that Dr. Van's available. So these would be the dates as of now that we could meet. And this is taken into account like Mardi Gras. You can see I tried to like list everything on there. It would be January 13th, February 10th, March 10th, April 14th. There's an asterisk there because I personally have something, but I'll try to reschedule. May 12th, June 9th, July 14th, August 11th, September 15th, which is the only third Friday, October 2nd, November 17th. Sorry, there's 2 third Fridays. And then we don't have one for December. So this would be 2023 dates. And we'll make sure we put these in the minutes for everyone.
Darby, can you scroll down to November?
Yes, sir. November 17th.
Okay. That we may have a bit of a problem but we'll do it. We'll do it. I'm just thinking about when they're the board meeting for November is not set for next year right now anyway, so.
Okay. So that one, I mean, that could be tentative. That's,
Maybe we won't need a meeting.
let's hope.
I would hope so, but I just don't.
Let's hope.
I never know when the board's going to make their decision about November and December yet.
Right.
We're not having an on November meeting, Dr. Van. It's
Okay,
December
good.
11th.
Good.
There we go. Okay. It's not giving me the screen to unshare it, so I don't know.
You want to stop sharing?
Yes, please. It's, yeah. There we go. I found it. Great. So we're back. Okay. So the last agenda item is the referral source for the Practice Act. This was, so basically there were 2 separate questions, and this is something that Dr. Van and the legal department had to kind of get in, inform us. So what happens is we get questions. So say somebody emails me or any of y'all with a practice question, like, hey, it could be anything that has to do with supervision, continuing ed, anything. And then we, and generally, say Amy got a question, she may forward it to me and say, how do I respond? And it could be a very quick and easy answer. It could be something that's a little bit more complicated. So usually we would bring this to the board. Sometimes Ingrid and I would talk about it. Sometimes I'd send it to Dr. Van. But basically what we need to talk about is that with these scenarios, we've come to realize that there are certain procedures and policies that I was not aware of for the past few years that we all need to understand and follow. So because I'm having trouble speaking, Ingrid, kind of.
I'm just gonna share the screen with the email I mean, this is a Word document of the email that Mary Payton sent us. Essentially says that in the second paragraph, that the OT who was looking for information was seeking our advisory committee opinion about OT rules. And she's saying it does need to be presented to the full committee. It's okay for, say, Darby or I to sort of draft a response based on our interpretation of the rules, but then it needs to be sent to, that's what it says here, sent to the board's legal department for review. Upon clearance, the draft will be put on the agenda for approval. And then the committee can review the original question and the response that maybe had been drafted by either any of us OTAC members. If we had drafted a response and sent it to legal, then the whole committee will look at the original question, the proposed response, and then vote on it. Yes, Patricia, please help us out.
I just want to ask, I didn't know Mary had sent you this. Really, it would be the best thing to do so we have a gateway for coordinating these kinds of things. If you could send it to Dr. Van, he will either, it may be something that he already knows the answer to, it doesn't need to go to legal, he can review the response and put it on the agenda, or if he thinks he needs legal involved, he'll give it to one of us. That way he's not out of the loop, and also it doesn't it just solves some of those right hand left hand issues that tend to come up.
Okay, so just to clarify then, if any of us as OTAC members gets a question from the public, then we should, even if it looks pretty straightforward, we should go ahead and send that to Dr. Van with possibly our opinion about it.
Yes, and then he may give you a call and say, this is exactly what I would say, and it's not to the level of formality that you can't, that either he could either direct you, it's fine to answer, or he may say, I'll give him a call and answer on behalf of the board or whatever. And then some things may be more involved that would require a formal pronouncement by the board. And if that's the case, he'll give it to one of us and we'll run it through our legal analysis, incorporating what you've already said or suggested. And then it can be placed on the agenda for formal approval as an official advisory opinion. But it's best if those things are routed through him, just to make sure, A, he knows what's going on, and B, he can make sure whether it needs to be to the level of a full board legal opinion type thing, or if he can just say, yeah, that's what I would say if they called me up and asked me. So
okay.
So let me, Patricia, if someone sends it, is it okay to also like CC the entire committee? So that
yes, of course, so that they know what question is out there, or if they have any input that they want to add. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, like, say Brenda gets a question, she sends it to the committee, we can chime in with like our opinions, kind of formulate our response as a committee, and then we would forward it to Dr. Van.
Well, you may not even have to do that.
Right. I wouldn't do it quite that formally, because that then is you all deliberating as a body and providing an official response. I'm just saying, if you wanted to, if you and Ingrid, or you and Brenda, whoever originally got it, I think it's appropriate for her to let the chairman and the secretary know that correspondence or that inquiry has been received. And then if there's a particular person on the committee who has particular expertise and you want to consult that person before you make a suggested response, but to you're really doing a walking quorum at that point if you ask everybody to chime in outside of the public eye and come reach to a solution that you want to propose to the board. So I would just say, whoever gets it, lets you and Ingrid know. Y'all, if you have a response, a suggested response, just CC Dr. Van on that, just send it to Dr. Van. And if you want to CC the committee to let them know that the question has been asked and this is the suggested answer by one or two of you, that's okay. But if you start getting activity by all the board members chiming in, then you really are working outside the loop of a public meeting.
And if you get a complaint, it's going to cost you $1,500 each that I can't pay for you.
Good to know.
But yeah.
And I got to run to another meeting. I'm sorry, but thanks. That'll keep you out of trouble.
All right. Thank you.
But yeah, some of it'll be probably pretty knee jerk, and it's just a question of making sure Dr. Van says, yeah, go ahead and give him that answer, or he'll say, or I'll call him and give him that answer or whatever. Not all of it, I think, is going to require, months and months of legal analysis or anything.
Okay. So I guess just to inform y'all, the two recent things that we received, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm like at the end of the abilities. One was about a referral, physician's referral, whether or not it has to be in Louisiana, like the physician has to be in Louisiana. And then the other one was a client care conference in an acute setting. And that talked about like, at what point do we need a new conference based on, OTA seeing someone over the weekend and different OTAs in. So those were the two topics, at which point we've, looked at the documentation and got some answers from, but we'll send to Dr. Van. One of those, the client care conference was sent to Dr. Van, and the other one was not, because then we became aware of this procedure, which, I hadn't talked to Brenda, but I know from our past involvement, like we were not aware of that formal of a procedure. We weren't even told sometimes what was answered, but I know for a fact that things were, I just was not aware of this procedure. So I just wanted to make sure everyone on the committee knew about it, just in case there's ever questions, because, questions have come from almost all of y'all here and there where people have brought things to your attention. And Ingrid and I were not aware of, like, does it have to be on the agenda? Does it not have to be on the agenda? Who can answer? How can we answer? So Patricia, thank you so much for you and to Mary, who's not here, for, guiding us.
Sure. And, that's opposed to just somebody walking down the hall as a colleague and asking you a question as a colleague. But if they're making a formal request to you as an OTAC member or asking what the board considers correct or whatnot, that's the ones that need to be routed through us.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get those other ones taken care of. One of them's pretty much done. It just hasn't been forwarded to the person asking, and the other one will be routed to y'all. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Alan, would you be able to check to see if there's any public comment before we adjourn?
Yep, give me 1 second. And none at this time.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we'll be meeting on the 16th at 10 o'clock, our new time. Okay. Thank you all. The meeting will be officially adjourned at 12:59.
All right, go rest, Darby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. Sorry, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Happy